Everyone around the world is watching China's economy, its infrastructure, its military, but they're missing something far more powerful, important, and permanent, and that is education. Because while the West was busy fighting wars and canceling each other over pronouns, China was silently building a global academic empire, and now it's all starting to pay off. In 2024, Tsinghua University ranked higher than Columbia, UPenn, and even challenged Stanford in AI research. That's right, a Chinese university founded during imperial collapse is now outpacing America's finest in the technologies of the future. Do you know what that means? It means the future elite won't be wearing Harvard sweatshirts. They'll be walking the campuses of Beijing. Please take a moment to drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more content. So far, this isn't just about beating the West at its own game. China is building an entire alternative education ecosystem, a system that trains, molds, and exports power across the global South. Just in 2025 alone, over 500,000 international students are studying in China. And these aren't just language students, they are engineers, doctors, policymakers, and future presidents coming from countries like Nigeria, Egypt, Pakistan, Kenya, Indonesia, and Thailand. They're being taught in Chinese classrooms, trained in Chinese labs, and absorbing China's worldview, not the West's crazy propaganda. So when they go back to run their nations, they don't look to the US for answers, they look to China. This is how power shifts, not with tanks and threats, but with teachers and education for the future generation. Here's the fascinating part. China isn't just attracting students to its homeland, but it's exporting entire universities. Yes, you heard that right. China is literally building colleges across the Belt and Road. Xiamen University now has a full campus in Malaysia. In Pakistan, the Confucius Institutes are training diplomats and engineers. In Egypt and Rwanda, Chinese-backed tech hubs are popping up inside universities. No one else is doing this. Not the UK, not Germany, and definitely not the US. And don't stop to think that language is a barrier. China now offers hundreds of full English language degree programs at top-tier universities like in medicine, engineering, business, AI, green energy, and more. These programs are designed for the world. And the best part? They're affordable. While US universities charge $30,000 to $60,000 a year, many Chinese degrees cost less than $5,000. Add to that fully furnished dorms, free language classes, modern metro access, and job opportunities in a booming economy. You think international students don't notice that? Meanwhile, the US and UK are hemorrhaging international students. Why? Because of visa restrictions, xenophobia, absurd costs, unstable policies, and fear-mongering. The West makes foreign students feel like outsiders. China makes them feel like future partners. In fact, the only reason many African, Asian, and Latin American students even used to consider the West was prestige. But that prestige is fading and fast. One look at the riots, the homelessness, the student debt crisis, and people are starting to say, why should I go there when I can get better in China and for cheaper? It's not just about volume, it's about what they're learning. China is producing more STEM graduates than the US, EU, and India combined every single year. Not sociology majors, but real scientists, engineers, and coders. In cutting-edge fields like AI, quantum computing, renewable energy, 5G, biotech. These Chinese universities are not only competing, they're leading. Western media pretends it's not happening, but the journals don't lie. From Huawei-backed research labs to government-funded AI clusters in Shenzhen and Hangzhou, Chinese education is truly building the next century. But it doesn't just stop at universities, it goes even further. China is re-engineering the pipeline from kindergarten to PhD and doing it faster than any country in modern history. In the 1990s, Chinese education was still mostly rote memorization. But what about today? Today, China leads in experimental learning labs, AI-assisted classrooms, and national coding curriculums, starting as early as middle school. Just let that sink in. Chinese students are learning quantum theory in high school. Here's the crazy twist. China is now teaching American students. You heard right. Thousands of Westerners, yes, even from the US, are now enrolling in Chinese universities. Not just for Chinese language, but for full degrees in engineering, international law, and even business. You might be asking why? Well, it's simple. They see where the power is shifting. They want to be employable in a world where China's economy is overtaking the US, where Chinese companies like BYD, Huawei, and Alibaba dominate sectors. It's all about survival. What's even more shocking is that China's influence has reached elite Western schools. Dozens of US and UK universities now depend heavily on Chinese student tuition, sometimes even up to 25–30% of their revenue, and China knows this. Chinese students have become a financial lifeline for the West's crumbling higher education system. If China ever pulled that plug, schools like the University of Sydney, University of California, and even British Russell Group institutions would collapse overnight. In other words, the West's education isn't just losing to China, it's now dependent on it. And then there's the ideological shift happening right under everyone's nose. Western education is being seen not just by the world, but even by its own citizens as unstable, chaotic, and increasingly toxic. Between cancel culture, constant protests, political polarization, and bloated tuition fees, students are fleeing. Meanwhile, China is offering structure, results, and stability. In many global South countries, parents don't want their kids coming back with a sociology degree and identity confusion. They want engineers, and China is just the place for that. And what about technology? Because this is where China obliterates the old system. Chinese universities are directly connected to tech industries. The institutions work hand-in-hand with tech giants like Tencent, Baidu, Xiaomi, and state-owned enterprises. Students graduate with real-world skills, not just theoretical knowledge. Internship pipelines are streamlined, research funding is massive, and startup incubation is common, all backed by government policy. Even more powerful is the fact that China doesn't gatekeep knowledge, it exports it. From MUOC platforms like Sritang X to full international partnerships with African and ASEAN universities, China is putting entire digital education ecosystems online in English and in Mandarin. They're not just giving you a degree, they're building the entire digital campus that teaches it, with AI tutors, multilingual options, and virtual labs. This is the future of education, and China's already miles ahead. Now let's talk about the soft power multiplier effect. Every student educated in China is another vote in Beijing's favor at the UN, another diplomat who pushes back against Western narratives, another entrepreneur who signs deals in RMB instead of USD. It's global influence that doesn't require a single soldier. It's a classroom strategy that turns into global control. Meanwhile, back in the West, what's the model? Crippling student debt, universities closing departments, rising dropout rates, and cultural chaos. The US has literally weaponized student loans, but China has weaponized opportunity. The difference couldn't be more obvious, and the consequences couldn't be more permanent. And here's what makes it all click. China's education expansion aligns perfectly with the Belt and Road Initiative. You think roads and ports were the end game? No, they were the foundation for the projects ahead. The BRI has now expanded into the Digital Silk Road and the Education Silk Road. Every train line to Nairobi or Islamabad comes with a Chinese university offering scholarships. Every new port in Colombo or Gwadar comes with Chinese teachers, training programs, and cultural centers. It's a complete system. Roads, railways, mines. And unlike Western aid, China's educational deals come without lectures or conditions. No strings attached, no morality policing, no IMF austerity packages. Just investment, partnership, and skill building. That's why nations are all flocking to it. So, what does the future look like? By 2030, the average African Minister of Education have probably studied in China, the head of Southeast Asia's AI agency, likely trained in Beijing, CEOs of African startups, all Chinese educated. And when they look back at where they got their skills, their scholarships, their break, it won't be Oxford or Harvard. It'll be Tsinghua, Fudan, Zhejiang, or the new digital campuses that China is planting all over the world. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more future content.